more now on the Liberal Democrats, and Nick Clegg has urged party activists to take the fight to their Conservative coalition partners in next month's local elections. Well, for more on this, we're joined by Mark Pack, co-editor of the Liberal Democrat Voice website. Thank you very much for coming in, Mark. Nick Clegg was clearly trying to draw clear lines between the Lib Dems and their coalition partners, the Tories, and of course Labour. But given the history of the coalition so far and the difficult economic circumstances that we're in, has he done enough, do you think, to appeal to any disgruntled Lib Dem supporters?
I think it was a very good speech that he gave earlier today, particularly I think the way he highlighted how so many of the cuts that Labour are complaining about, Labour would have introduced themselves. I think the line he used was that for every £8 the government is cutting, Labour would have cut £7 under their plans. But also he quite rightly drew attention to the fact that because it's the local elections and there are all sorts of different political makeups on different councils around the country, there are lots of places where Liberal Democrats and Tories are, contesting the elections against each other very intensely.
Do you think national issues, though, will play an even bigger role than they might have otherwise in these local elections?
There's always a mix of both local and national issues in voters' minds, and if you're a local candidate it can be a little frustrating sometimes, but it's certainly understandable why people think about the national issues as well. I think because a lot of councils are having to make quite difficult and often quite controversial decisions. Actually, although national politics is very much in the news at the moment, certainly my experience talking to people on the doorsteps is there is often a very strong focus on the local issues.
There is the spectre of Barnsley Central, of course, albeit that was a by-election where our viewers may remember the Lib Dems lost their deposit last month. How worrying is that going to be for councillors around the country?
It's always nicer to save your deposit in a parliamentary by-election, but I think a lot of my colleagues around the country have been looking very closely at the council by-election results, which generally have been much more positive for the party. But what has certainly been the case is that the results vary an awful lot from one council to another and even from one ward to another. So I think for people who are working really hard on the ground, a lot of the signs are reasonably promising, but certainly where they're not working hard on the ground, they're facing a very, very tough situation.
And briefly, looking to the future, much is going to depend on the vote in the referendum on the alternative vote.
Absolutely. Bring about electoral reform is really important for Liberal Democrats, but it's worth remembering the coalition is also committed to introducing proportional representation for elections to the Lords. So the AV referendum is really important, but it's not the only important reform coming along.
A very important date for all the parties. Mark Pack, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.